Welcome to Make It Dairy Free. I'm Larisha, and today I am going to show you how to make a comfort food classic, shepherd's pie, vegan, of course. Quick funny story, when I first made this for my kids, they were so confused. Is this for a shepherd? Is there a shepherd inside of this? And when I ultimately served it to them, this is not a pie. The look of disappointment on their face was so palpable. But honestly, this is one of those meals that can help stretch a budget, but it's still amazing for the holidays or meal prep or whatever it is that you need dinner for throughout your week. We're going to be starting with some lentils. You can use brown or green lentils for this particular recipe. Honestly, you could use red, but they kind of turn into mush and they're a little bit more expensive. But I wanted to share one of the best things this recipe and other recipes that you can do for your wallet is to use lentils. They are so easy to make, they are so cheap, but they are filled with protein and fiber and so many other good things, and they only take like 20 minutes to cook. So it is a win-win all around. I'm starting with some water that I'll bring to a boil. A good rule of thumb here is about 2 inches of water over the lentils. You could also do this with vegetable stock if you wanted to add a little bit more flavor into the lentils themselves. This is a great way to do that. And we're just going to cook these for about 20 minutes until they are nice and soft. You don't necessarily want them mushy, but you definitely want them soft and cooked all the way through. You can totally cheat and buy canned lentils that you can find in a store. Obviously, that won't be as great for your budget, but it will be great for a time constraint or something like that that you need to make this go a little bit faster. We are going to keep going with the recipe while that is cooking off to like one burner, or however you decide to make that happen. You can keep proceeding with the recipe. Now, my favorite part, the mashed potatoes, just because mashed potatoes are life. I like to start these now so they are ready and hot by the time our filling layer is also finished. We are going to start by peeling and cubing our potatoes. You do want to try to get your potatoes relatively the same size so that they cook evenly. 2 tips that I have for this part of the recipe as far as the potatoes go. You can leave the skins on your potatoes, however, that's going to give you like a chunkier mashed potato in the end. If you want the smoothest option, you will need to peel your potatoes. If you do peel your potatoes, don't throw those away. You can toss those with a little bit of oil, whatever seasonings you like, put it on a baking tray and pop it into the oven for like 8 to 12 minutes at like 400 degrees, and you have free potato chips. It's just girl math. So into a large pot, I'm going to be adding in some vegetable stock and my cubed potatoes before turning on the heat. This makes sure the entire potato heats up gradually and gives it a better texture in the end. Then I'm going to let these boil for about 12 to 15 minutes or until they can easily be pierced with a fork. All right, this is literally my biggest hack for making any type of mashed potatoes ever, whether it is literally just a side or on top of something like this shepherd's pie or whatever you're using mashed potatoes for, is to cook it in vegetable stock. It not only adds a layer of flavor into the potatoes themselves, but we are also going to be using that to make gravy, and it helps that whole process as well. If you have never made your own vegetable stock, it is super easy, super affordable, especially compared to grocery store prices. And we have a video for it that I'll leave here or here. One of these 2 places. It's because the starchiness from the potatoes actually goes into the stock that we use for the gravy, and then it just helps us give a richer, smoother texture at the end because of that starchiness, and it is just perfection. Also, I am using russet potatoes for this recipe, but you could do Yukon Gold, you can do red, you can even do sweet potatoes if you really want to throw things up and like get really fancy. You can totally do any of those options, whatever works for you or whatever you can find the cheapest. Once your potatoes are done, we need to separate them from the stock since we are going to be using that for our gravy. So I like to use some type of slotted spoon and then add my potatoes right into the bowl I'm going to mash them in. Once I have all of my potatoes, then I'm going to add in some vegan butter, plant-based milk, and some salt and pepper, and we're just going to mash those until we have our desired consistency. When you over mix mashed potatoes, it has a tendency to turn gummy because it is releasing all of the starch, and when you overwork starch, it turns into like a gummy mess, essentially, like gelatinous and just not fun and not really fun to eat. Now we're going to move on to our filling. Again, while your lentils and or potatoes are cooking, you can move on to this part of the recipe. I personally opt for my largest cast iron skillet. It is the 12-inch one, and I do this because I can cook all of my filling mixture in my cast iron skillet and then add the mashed potatoes on top, and then I can go straight into the oven. Now you might have two smaller cast iron skillets where you can do half and half, or maybe you have a Dutch oven that you can go straight into the oven with. You could also do it in there. If you do not have one of those options, then you can just cook this in your regular skillet, and then you're gonna transfer it to a casserole dish prior to going into the oven. So into your skillet, we are going to heat some oil and then add in our chopped onions, celery, carrots, and garlic. We really want to let all of this soften the best we can. So a good 4 to 5 minutes, being careful not to burn, especially the garlic. And then after you get that to the desired consistency that you want, you are going to drop your heat down to medium, and we are going to add in our cooked lentils, tomato paste, marinara sauce, some more vegetable stock, and our spices, which are just Italian seasoning, some salt and pepper. And we're going to let this cook for about 15 minutes. And after we get everything stirred together really, really well, you are just going to have to stir that occasionally. The biggest thing to look for here is that your tomato paste has been stirred to be super smooth and consistent throughout the whole dish. So after that has cooked for a bit, we're going to add in our chickpeas, nutritional yeast, corn, and peas, and then stir all this together and cook for 5 more minutes. Y'all know I love my versatility, so this is a part of the recipe that you really get to do that with. So I know some people don't like chickpeas, so you could replace that with some white beans, like Great Northern or butter beans would be perfect inside of this recipe. But maybe you also want to clean out some stuff in your fridge, or you had grabbed something that you need to use up. This is the part of the veggies that you can really make versatile and make your own. So maybe you want to add some green beans, maybe you want to add some bell peppers, maybe you want to do some mushrooms inside of here. You really get to be creative with this part and make it your own. And now is when we get to bring those mashed potatoes in. We are going to carefully drop and spread until covering the entire top of our filling mixture. This doesn't have to be perfect, and it is 100% okay if some of that filling mixture mixes into your potatoes. Just make it as smooth and even as you can. And then we are going to pop this into the oven and bake it for 25 minutes. All right, I didn't forget that stock. Did you forget the stock that we had reserved at the beginning of this recipe? We are going to bring that in now while our shepherd's pie bakes in the oven, and we are going to make a really simple gravy. So into our pot that we cooked our mashed potatoes in, or our potatoes that were cubed in, we are going to melt some vegan butter and then whisk in our flour until we have a roux, and you want to whisk that constantly. And once that's all together, we are going to add our reserved stock and then add in some salt and pepper to taste. And you are just going to keep whisking until that gets thick enough to coat the back of the spoon, and then you can just take it off. And that is how you make the perfect vegan shepherd's pie. It is comfort food to its core. It is freezable, it serves a lot of people, and all of the ingredients besides maybe the vegan butter that we use in the mashed potatoes is really budget friendly, and you can really make this your own to make it work for you. Also, just like the taco casserole that I made last week, you can totally just serve the filling on one side and serve the mashed potatoes on the other side of your plate, not even go through with this baking part. Of course, it like makes everything like all meld together and all of that, but you can totally skip that part if you feel like it. I hope you loved this video. Make sure to leave a comment and let me know what you think. And I hope that you have a really amazing week. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.